The Washington Nationals take on the Philadelphia Phillies. 7:05 Eastern first pitch in South Philly. This game's currently off the board. Max Scherzer for the Nationals, Zach Wheeler for Philadelphia. And following a stellar 5-1 day on my Patreon website on Sunday, I don't know what to tell you. We laid an absolute egg yesterday on that very same Patreon page. I'll tell you what, it's about as bad as it gets when it comes to sports picks. I definitely have to do a better job than that, and I'm not feeling great about it. But unfortunately, that's going to drop us down to just 60% our last $20.99 daily best plays on that Patreon site. Now, we currently have over 1,100 dedicated members who are still signed up and active on that page. And as always, guys, we're going to keep firing away as we have 5 more premium sports picks on that Patreon site this evening. So if you want to see which one of these YouTube picks I'm actually betting on personally, you can do that on my website here tonight at patreon.com/BrockPage. Now, guys, Zach Wheeler comes into today's start with a 5-3 record and a 2.15 ERA. The righty's punched out 118 batters, and he has a stingy .93 whip. Now, the Phillies have been a very good baseball team at home this year. 21-12 straight up at Citizens Bank Park. 4-0 straight up in their last 4 home games as well. The Phillies pitching staff is in the top 10 in the league in striking batters out at home. Now, they're taking on a Washington club who's in second to last place in the division, and they scored just 3.7 runs per contest. The Nats have also been pretty bad on the road this year. They've gotten the W in only 12 out of 30 road games. Kyle Schwarber is also listed as questionable for tonight's contest. I'm going to go ahead and lean toward the Philadelphia Phillies winning this one outright for some money line cash. Next game, White Sox Pirates, 7:05 Eastern start time. The Chicago White Sox are -180, numbers 8. Lucas Giolito for Chicago, Tyler Anderson for Pittsburgh. Anderson's just 3-7 on the year, along with a .489 ERA. The last place Pirates have lost 8 out of their last 10. And they currently find themselves 20 games below 500. Now, this Pirates lineup is dead last in the league in scoring on average per contest. They're taking on a first-place White Sox club who's 14 games above 500. And they're also in the top 3 in striking batters out on the road. The Chicago pitching staff allows just 3.6 runs a game. Lucas Giolito struck out 103 batters and comes into this game with a .386 ERA. The righty's also got a 1.10 whip. When it comes to the total in this one, 7 out of Chicago's last 10 ball games did get over the posted number. They're also in the top 5 in the league in road scoring. Meanwhile, Pittsburgh saw 3 out of their last 4 home games get over the line themselves. I'm going to lean toward the Chicago White Sox -180 and the over 8 runs. Next ball game, it is going to be Royals versus the Yankees, 7:05 Eastern Standard Time. The New York Yankees are -280 with the total at 7.5. Garrett Cole for New York, Brady Singer for Kansas City. And despite a handful of shaky outings, Brady Singer struck out 71 batters in just 68 innings of work. The Royals have also won 2 out of their last 3 ball games, with both of those victories coming over Boston. This Kansas City pitching staff is in the top 10 in the league in road strikeouts. They're also holding their opponents to under 7.4 hits a game when traveling. They're taking on a Yankees club who's been pretty bad against the run line at home this season. New York successfully cashed in on the run line in only 14 out of 36 home games. And that's good for just 38% in that particular category. This New York lineup is also scoring only 3.8 runs a game at Yankee Stadium, and they're averaging nearly double-digit strikeouts on their home field. Now, when it comes to the scoring in this one, New York's 22-14 to the under as the home team. Kansas City's gone 20-13 to the under when they bat first. I'm going to lean toward the Kansas City Royals +1.5 and the under 7.5 runs. Next matchup, Astros versus the Orioles, 7:05 p.m. Eastern first pitch. The Houston Astros are -180, totals 9.5. Zach Greinke for Houston, Jorge Lopez for Baltimore. Now Lopez is just 2-8 on the year with a 5.95 ERA and a 1.49 WHIP. The last place Orioles have lost 9 out of their last 10 contests, and they have the fewest wins in the American League. They've also played terrible baseball at Camden Yards this year, winners of just 12 out of 36 home games. This Orioles pitching staff is dead last in runs allowed at home. They're taking on a first-place Houston club who leads the majors in hits and runs. Michael Brantley's leading the majors with a .350 batting average. The outfielder also has an OPS of .923, which is in the top 15 in baseball. Yuli Gurriel, he's also in the top 10 in RBI. He's knocked in 50 runners, and he's batting .322 at the plate. The Houston pitching staff is holding their opponents to less than 7.2 hits a game on the road. Zach Greinke's 7-2 with a .374 ERA and a 1.14 WHIP. Now, when it comes to the number in this one, 7 out of Houston's last 10 ball games all got over the posted total. The Astros are also 21-12 to the over when they travel themselves. Meanwhile, Baltimore saw 3 out of their last 4 home games get over the total. They also went 80% to the over in their last 10 outings. I'm going to lean toward the Houston Astros minus 180 and the over 9.5. Next matchup, Cardinals versus the Tigers, 7:10 p.m. East. The St. Louis Cardinals are minus 115, numbers 8.5. Johan Oviedo for St. Louis. Tarek Skubal for Detroit. Now, Skubal's just 4-7 on the year, .436 ERA, and a 1.45 WHIP. The last place Tigers are a dozen games below 500 right now, and they lost their last 3 straight home games. Detroit scoring just 3.8 runs a game, and they're striking out over 10.1 times at the plate per contest. They're taking on a Cardinals club who won 4 out of their last 7 themselves, and they rank in the top 10 in hits allowed. The Cardinals hold their opponents to just 7.3 hits a game. When it comes to the total in this one, St. Louis went 60% to the under in their last 10 ball games, 7-3 to the under in their last 10 meetings with Detroit. Meanwhile, the Tigers are 22-12 to the under as the home team. I'm going to lean toward the St. Louis Cardinals minus $1.15 and the under 8.5. Next matchup I have for you, it is going to be Boston versus Tampa Bay, 7:10 East. The Tampa Bay Rays are minus $1.25, total 7.5. Andrew Kittredge for Tampa, Eduardo Rodriguez for Boston. Now Rodriguez is 5-4 in the year with 78 strikeouts. The Red Sox have been dominant within divisional play. They're 11-2 straight up against the AL East when they travel. They're also in the top 3 in road hits. Xander Bogaerts hits .317 and is in the top 10 in the majors in that particular category. He also has a .931 OPS. Meanwhile, Rafael Devers is in the top 10 in both homers and RBI. He's hit 18 home runs and knocked in 57. Now, Boston is taking on a Tampa club who's on a 6-game losing streak. They gave up 5 runs or more 5 times during that span. This Tampa Bay lineup strikes out more than anybody else in the league at home. They're fanning over 10.5 times a game at the Trop, and they're scoring just 3.9 runs a game as the home team. Now, total-wise, 2 out of Tampa's last 3 home games got over the number, 60% to the over in their last 10 outings as well. Meanwhile, the Red Sox went 3-2 to the over in their last 5 road games, 60% to the over in their last 10 outings as well. I'm going to lean toward the Boston Red Sox, plus 105, and the over, 7.5. Next game, Braves, Mets, 7:10 East. Both teams are minus $1.10. Pretty much a coin flip in this one. Totals 7. Charlie Morton for Atlanta. Marcus Stroman for the Mets. Stroman 6-5 with a .234 ERA and a 1.05 WHIP. The righty struck out 75 batters this year. The Mets have been nearly unbeatable in Flushing, Queens this season. 21-8 straight up at Citi Field, first in the majors in runs allowed per game. This Mets rotation gives up just 2.1 runs per contest as the home team. They're holding their opponents to just 5.3 hits per contest at Citi Field as well. They've also won 8 of 11 divisional games at home. They're taking on a Braves club who's won just 8 out of 18 divisional games on the road. Atlanta's currently 3 games below 500 for the season, and they're in the bottom 5 in the league in road hits. This Braves lineup is averaging less than 7.2 hits per contest when they bat first. Charlie Morton also comes into today's start with a 4.03 ERA and a 1.21 WHIP. Now, when it comes to the total in this one, Atlanta's 12-6 to the under in their road games against the NL East. Meanwhile, the Mets have gone 22-7 to the under on their home field. I'm going to lean toward the New York Mets minus $1.10 and the under 7. Next ball game, it is going to be Blue Jays versus the Marlins, 7:10 p.m. East. Miami Marlins are minus $1.25, total 7.5. Sandy Alcantara for Miami, Ross Stripling for Toronto. And despite a rough start to the year for Stripling, the Blue Jays have still won their last 2 straight, and they also still have a winning record on the road. This Toronto lineup's in the top 5 in scoring, top 3 in hits. Vlad Guerrero Jr. is first in the majors in home runs, RBI, and OPS. The Sluggers hit 23 homers and knocked in 59. He also has an OPS of 1.111. Meanwhile, Marcus Simeon's in the top 10 in homers with 18 of them. The shortstop has also knocked in 42. Now, Toronto's taking on a last-place Miami club who's 9 games below 500 and lost 5 out of their last 7. The Marlins score only 3.9 runs a game, and they average nearly double-digit strikeouts at the plate. And as good as Sandy Alcantara has been, he comes into today's contest with a 4-6 record. Now, total-wise, the Marlins did see 3 out of their last 4 home games get over the line. Meanwhile, Toronto's 60% to the over in their last 10 outings. I'm going to lean toward the underdog Toronto Blue Jays plus 105 and the over 7.5. Next game, Indians versus the Cubs, 8:05 Eastern start time. The Chicago Cubs are minus 210, totals 8.5. Kyle Hendricks for Chicago, Eli Morgan for Cleveland. Now, Morgan's making his 3rd career start for Cleveland. He's his 2nd start since his June 15th call-up from the minors this season. Morgan's currently got a 12.79 ERA and a 2.37 WHIP in very limited action this year. Cleveland's in the bottom 10 in the league in walks allowed. Their lineup is also in the bottom 5 in hits at the plate. They're taking on a first-place Cubbies team who's 7 games above 500 and plays their best baseball at Wrigley Field. Chicago's 25-13 at the friendly confines, and they currently have the 2nd most home wins in the National League. The Cubs allow only 3.6 runs per contest as the home team. Kyle Hendricks also comes into today's game with a 9-4 record. Now, total-wise, Cleveland's gone 70% to the over in their last 10 ball games, 6-3 to the over in their last 9 contests against the National League on the road. I'm going to lean toward the Chicago Cubs minus 1.5 in the over 8.5 runs. Next matchup, A's versus the Rangers, 8:05 Eastern Standard Time. The Oakland A's are minus 135, totals 9. Cole Irvin for Oakland, Taylor Hearn for Texas. Now, Hearn comes into today's start with a 4.84 ERA and a 1.56 WHIP. The last place Rangers are 20 games below 500. They lost 7 out of their last 9 ball games. Now, Texas is dead last in the majors in offensive walks at the plate. They're also scoring just 3.7 runs a game at Globe Life Field. They're taking on an Oakland club who won 7 out of their last 10 themselves. And they also win 60% of their divisional contests on the road. The A's are also 19-12 when traveling overall for the season. Now, their pitching staff is in the top 5 in fewest walks allowed on the road. They're giving up only 3.8 runs a game as the road team. When it comes to the total in this one, the A's are 18-13 to the under when they bat first. Texas has gone 21-14 to the under as the home team. I'm going to lean toward the Oakland A's minus 135 and the under 9 runs. Next matchup, Giants versus the Angels, 9:38 Eastern first pitch. The LA Angels are -130, totals 9. Andrew Heaney for Los Angeles, Anthony DeSclafani for San Francisco. Now, DeSclafani 7-2 on the year with a 3.01 ERA and a 1.03 WHIP. The first place Giants are atop the Dodgers and Padres in the NL West right now. They're currently 20 games above 500, and they lead the majors in fewest road runs allowed. This Giants pitching staff gives up just 3.5 runs a game when they travel. And they hold their opponents to less than 7.6 hits a game in that same category. They're taking on an Angels club who lost 4 out of their last 7. And they walk more batters on their home field than any other franchise. This LA pitching staff is in the bottom 10 and runs allowed at home as well. Andrew Heaney comes into today's contest with a 4.45 ERA. Now, total-wise, LA's gone 26-12 to the over as the home team, 9-1 to the over in their last 10 outings at any location. I'm going to lean toward the San Francisco Giants plus $1.10 and the over 9 runs. Next ball game, Brewers versus the D-backs, 9:40 p.m. Eastern start. The Milwaukee Brewers are -150, total 7.5. Freddie Peralta for Milwaukee, Zach Gallen for Arizona. Gallen's got just 1 win thus far in the season. As the last place D-backs currently have the worst record in Major League Baseball. The Diamondbacks are already 32 games below 500, and they currently have a win percentage of just .284. They're also dead last in runs allowed, dead last in hits allowed. They're taking on a first-place Milwaukee team who won 2 out of their last 3. They have a 20-13 road record against the National League. The Brewers are also leading the majors in striking batters out on the road. They're allowing just 6.9 hits a game when they travel as well. Freddie Peralta is 6-2 thus far in this season, 2.28 ERA and a .87 WHIP. The righties also struck out 104 batters in just 75 innings of work. Now, total-wise, Milwaukee saw 3 out of their last 5 road games get over the line. Arizona's 70% to the over in their last 10 outings themselves. I'm going to lean toward the Milwaukee Brewers -150 and the over 7.5. Next matchup, Dodgers versus the Padres, 10:10 East. The LA Dodgers are -120 on the road, total 7.5 flat. Clayton Kershaw for Los Angeles, Blake Snell for San Diego. And despite a bit of a rocky start here for Snell, the lefty still fanned 85 batters in just over 61 innings. The Pods are also on a 5-game winning streak, with one of those victories coming against this very LA squad. San Diego currently has the most home wins in the National League right now. They're 26-14 at Petco Park, and they're leading the league in striking batters out at home. This Padres pitching staff strikes out over 11 batters a game on their home field, and they give up only 3.1 runs per contest in that same category. They're taking on a Dodger club who's in the bottom half of the league in strikeouts at the plate. When it comes to the number in this one, the Dodgers saw 3 out of their last 4 road games get over the total, 60% to the over in their last 10 outings at any location. Meanwhile, 4 out of San Diego's last 5 home games got over the total themselves. They also went 70% to the over in their last 10 outings at any location. I'm going to lean toward the San Diego Padres plus $1 and the over 7.5. And with that, we're going to jump into our next and final matchup. It is going to be Rockies versus the Mariners, 10:10 p.m. Eastern first pitch. The Seattle Mariners are -160, totals 8.5 runs. Chris Flexen for Seattle, Kyle Freeland for Colorado. Freeland's 0-2 with a 9.58 ERA and a 2.27 WHIP. The Rockies have the fewest road wins in Major League Baseball. They're currently just 5-27 straight up when they bat first, and they're also dead last in road runs allowed. This Rockies lineup is also scoring a measly 2.5 runs a game as the away team as well. They're taking on a Seattle club who plays their best baseball at home. They're 6-1 straight up in their last 7 at T-Mobile Park, 23-15 overall at home for the entire season. They also have Chris Flexen on the bump here today, who's 6-3 thus far in the year. When it comes to the total on this one, Seattle's 23-15 to the under on their home field. Colorado's gone 18-14 the under as the road team themselves. I'm going to lean toward the Seattle Mariners -1.5 and the under 8.5 runs. But that, guys, now it's time for our quick pick recap. Powered to you by my Patreon website. I like Philadelphia winning their game outright for some money line cash. I also like the Chicago White Sox -180 in the over 8 runs. Give me Kansas City +1.5, under 7.5. Give me Houston -180, over 9.5 runs. St. Louis -115, under 8.5. Boston +105, over 7.5. I'm also leaning toward the New York Mets -110 and the under 7 runs. I also like Toronto +105 and the over 7.5. Chicago Cubs -1.5, over 8.5. Oakland -135, under 9. I'm also leaning toward the San Francisco Giants +110, over 9 runs. Milwaukee -150, over 7.5. San Diego +$1, over 7.5. Before I give you my next and final free pick for the video, one final reminder that we are still hitting at 60% in our last $20.99 daily best plays on my Patreon website. Despite our recent struggles, I'm going to lean toward the Seattle Mariners -1.5 and the under 8.5 runs. But that, guys, now it's time for some shout outs, some very well-deserved shout outs to our top 10 YouTube commenters over the past couple of days or so. Shout out to Willie Lump, Jordan Stenger, Peter Otieno. Shout out to Jay Chick. Shout out to Makia, Lou Forte, Dollar Bills, Todd Locke, G. Cole. And last but certainly not least, got to give a shout out to my man, Jeff Baker. All right, guys, that's going to do it for me. Don't forget to check me out on Patreon. Now, if you guys do end up deciding to get a membership here today on my Patreon website, just keep in mind, Patreon's going to bill you the day you sign up and then the first of every month following that. So if you do end up getting a package here today on Patreon, you're going to get access to that content all the way through the end of June. But most importantly, guys, got to thank you for joining me right here on YouTube. I really hope you enjoyed all this great free content, all this great free information. And with that said, happy Tuesday to you. Best of luck to you. And I look forward to seeing you later on today on my website at patreon.com/BrockPage.